I pushed hard and worked my way up from roughneck to all the way to drilling foreman.
Maxime Daigle has spent so much time on drill rigs and fracking sites he can sketch a diagram with little effort.
As you go up the ladder, you see more of what really does happen and the impacts that you're causing. I've seen enough that I know a fair amount of what can and can't be done right with regulations.
He's no oracle, but he says if New Brunswickers allow fracking to go ahead, he sees a troubled future for the province. He understands the interest in potential jobs because he's been there. But after 7 years of working on wells in Alberta, British Columbia, and throughout the United States, Daigle concluded the world's dependency on oil was killing the planet and called it quits.
We all have our hands dirty on it. It's just an awakening that I went through that made me realize what I was doing was wrong, and I needed to try to make a difference.
Daigle moved back home to New Brunswick, sold his house, went back to school to study electrical engineering with an eye on renewable energy. But he's put any future in that industry on hold, instead devoting all of his time warning New Brunswickers about how dangerous shale gas exploration is. One thing he likes to show them are the boots he wore while working with the chemicals used on a well.
It ate all of underneath the boots, the laces, everything. And if you smell them, it's bad. So it's just to show how toxic this drilling fluid is. And would you want that in your water? Or do you want to even take the chance?
But many supporters of hydrofracking say problems won't come about if it is done the right way. UNB geology professor Adrian Park says it would be safe with the right regulations.
Once you go more than around 200 meters down, the pressure caused by the weight of overlying rock actually seals natural fissures and fractures. And then, if you're hydrofracturing deeper than that, then that natural permeability barrier should protect near-surface water.
But even Park acknowledges there are issues with how much water is used while fracking, and that the chemicals used could be incredibly harmful if they got in the water supply.
Once these chemicals are released into waterways, they're very, very difficult to control, which is why there is usually fairly tight regulation on how they can be stored at the surface.
This is what it did after 12 hours.
Maxime Daigle says it doesn't matter how deep you drill or how many regulations are in place. After seeing so many spills, he says there's always a chance of it.
But I've seen many times that you're told just to cover it with dirt, fresh dirt, so nobody sees it.
Then there's what happens when things go really wrong. Those boots that Daigle shows off were worn while working on a well that hid an abnormal gas pocket, nearly blowing up the entire well.
We held back so much pressure that we fractured everywhere, some fracture lines. And we lost circulation of that drilling fluid inside the well bore. Everything went away.
While trying to regain well pressure, the crew pumped thousands of barrels of toxic drilling fluid into the ground, only to find out it was coming up somewhere else due to an unforeseen fracture.
After 4 or 5 days of doing this, there's farmers that came on location. And they asked her what was that black stuff that was coming into the river. And when we were wondering why we couldn't regain circulation of that well, this was the reason. Everything was going up into the river.
Daigle thinks the problem with fracking is all the unknowns, which is why he thinks it takes people with first-hand experience like him to speak out.
It's a lot harder to go after the government and industry with something that you've read opposed to something that you've lived. And this has been a big part of me being effective in this movement.
So, until a moratorium is put in place for fracking, Maxime Daigle will continue telling his story, reminding New Brunswickers why they don't want to see what he has in their backyards. Matthew Bingley, CBC News, Ste. Marie de Kent.